On this episode of Audiobook Club, some life-affirming advice from British comedy national treasure Miranda Hart.
Since my sitcom Miranda, people often ask me for advice about how they can feel happier in themselves. This has become my answer. Mull on the truth that there's only one of you in the whole history of humankind ever. No one who has come before you is the same. No one who's come after you is the same. You are the only you who has ever appeared in history. Therefore, you simply are valuable, needed, approved, accepted. You are loved. Plus, you have a set of DNA, skills, imaginations, visions, and attributes that create a unique personality that the world needs at this time. That's your wild self. Just you. And that's what my story is about.
Audiobook Club with Steve Phillips and Matthew Layton.
Hello and welcome to Audiobook Club, the audiobook review and recommendation podcast that found love later in life. As ever, with me is Matt Layton. Hey, Matt.
Hello, Steve.
We've had a busy old week this week, haven't we? 3 episodes, of course, recently with the two Ben McIntyres and one Steve Jobs, Walter Isaacson, and you were at the O2 this week.
Well, both of us have managed to get out, haven't we? Before
We've
I get to
got
that,
out for once, yes.
how the devil are you, Steve?
Can't complain. Who'd listen? Ha ha, I think I did that back in episode 2. Forget that one, scrub that.
Are you looking forward to this week's show?
I am, very much so, yeah.
That's not what you said earlier. All right, the O2.
Oh, I'm nervous. I am nervous about what you're going to say. I am very nervous.
I told you. I've been on a training course. I have a slight reputation for not being very good at dealing with female authors. And the book we are reading this week, which is Miranda Hart's I Haven't Been Entirely Honest With You, is the first audiobook we've come up against that has been embargoed. So we asked the nice people at Penguin for a copy, and they said, "Oh no, we can't give it to you just yet because we're not allowed to release it until the day itself." And that's, for as far as I can tell, one of 2 reasons. Number 1 could be that Miranda was doing a round of all of the television studios last week, telling everybody she'd found love at the age of 51, and they wanted that to surface at the same time as the release of the book. And the other reason is that the book may not be quite the comedy Christmas book that everybody was expecting. Is that fair, Steve?
That's really fair. Yes, it wasn't what I was expecting at all, really. But good nonetheless. But I am still nervous. Indeed. By the way, I'm going to get a bell because we were, I think, a minute and a half in before you mentioned the phrase training course. Yes, a man who has been on many training courses around his behaviour, Mr. Matthew Layton. But yes, this book I think is it's not what you were expecting, and I'm quite glad she's been entirely honest with us.
Still, we've had a busy week, haven't we, Steve?
We've had a busy week. It's been a busy week. Without too much self-aggrandizing, you were at the O2 this week, I understand. And
you were at the theatre, so we'll do the O2 first. I went to see the O2, or it used to be called the Millennium Dome, is
easy for you to say.
Now it's now a 15,000-seater music venue down in the east of London. And on the River Thames, you've seen it in the background in speedboat chases on James Bond films. And weirdly, this week, one of the podcasts that we listened to, both you and I, The Rest is Politics, with Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart, they'd managed to sell out the O2 for 2 old blokes sitting on a stage talking about politics. Which was really weird. And I really wanted to go, partly because I listened to the podcast, but also, do you remember the Mary Whitehouse experience, Steve? You're the British comedy expert. Do you remember the television programme of Mary Whitehouse experience?
Yes, I do. Very well, yeah.
Little bit.
Yes, History Today. Bit. Yeah, I remember History Today and some other unforgettable sketches.
I remember when we were in our teens, basically they sold out Wembley Arena. So it was the first time, at the time, comedy was the new rock and roll. A bunch of comedians had sold out an arena, and I didn't get to go because I was a couple of years too young, I think. And then when suddenly the new rock and roll is now podcasting, thank goodness. And I thought, I really want to see how that works. I really want to see how a room full of 13,000 people listening to two middle-aged blokes doing dad jokes and talking about politics. I want to see if it works. And it kind of did. Fortunately, they put some effort in. So there was a multimedia element. You know, when you go to, not that I've ever been to a boxing match, but when you see a boxing match on the television, they have those big screens that dangle down from the ceiling above the ring. They have those there.
The visual danglers, I think they're called, actually. It's a technical term.
Behave! And
Training course.
And so it was in the round, so they'd moved the stage into the centre of the floor. I have to say, it's the quietest gig I've ever been to. I didn't know what the etiquette was. Does one have lager in a plastic cup, because like one would do at a pop gig, or does one sit there quietly with a glass of sherry? And yeah,
How is that? I mean, was it like they rolled out the greatest hits? So, you know, Iraq War towards the end of the gig. Was it something like that?
No, it wasn't quite that. It was a very similar format to the podcast, which is the first half of it. They did UK political news and spoke about the events of this week were the Conservative Party leadership contest in the United Kingdom and how our new Prime Minister from the other side is doing. So they got through that, and then a little break so you could go and buy yourself, a lager, and then on came. They brought on the presenters of The Rest is Politics US. Have you watched that one, Steve?
Yes, Catty Kay and the Mooch.
The Mooch. So
yes.
basically, I'm at some sort of political event, with people talking about serious issues on stage. But behind me, there are four blokes going, Mooch!
Yeah. Well, throw them a bone. They're at an O2, gig. They need to shout something.
They were as confused as I was. So, but it was great, and the atmosphere was lovely. I think there's a bit where the Rest of Politics US, despite the other one having a head start, is going to overtake the original Rest is Politics by some metrics. Just judging in the room by how engaged people were with the Mooch, and his warmth and energy and self-deprecating humour. My favourite bit was he said, "Do you like my new hair? It's Mexican. My new hair colour is called Mexican General Brown. I used to wear Cuban dictator black, but I saw myself on telly and it looked shit." So he always admits to having Botox as well.
Well, it sounds like a good night out. And I mean, there you go. There's something to aspire to. It'd be a cold day in hell if we
yeah, when we get here. Here's another thing we haven't quite qualified for yet. We don't have enough listeners for.
Yeah, any sort of live show, any sort of live gig, a village hall, a scout hut.
We're not getting as far as the live read. You know that the bit in most podcasts at the moment where people say, and when I think about that, do you have problems with beard druff? This podcast is brought to you by the read, the presenter read is the technical name for it.
I do have one.
Do you?
Yeah.
Now?
I've got one right here, and I was just going to ask you a question. Do you like murder mystery games, man?
Oh yeah, I do. Oh, go on.
I mean, you do like detective stories, don't you? I mean, there's a big hit on this podcast.
Yeah, right. Plugging your other ventures. Go for it.
Well, I mean, if you do like murder mystery, then this one's for you. Killer at Keel Court by the brand new murder mystery board game range, Murder Mission, now available on Amazon. £20. That's the end of the read. I don't know if there's no slogan at the end. They don't really have slogans, do they?
You might need to flesh that out a bit, Steve.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, basically, it's It's an evening in with your folks or couples or parties, lasts for 2 to 3 hours, lots of intrigue and everything. And it's a jolly good fun thing to do. It's a cheap activity as we go into the darker evenings.
And we're delighted to announce them as partners of the podcast.
Yes, friends of the show.
So
why not?
The second half of The Rest is Politics at the O2 Arena. And it was strange. I've never seen 13,000 people be so quiet at points. It was very interesting. But in the second half, they took questions via Twitter. And about the third question was, can Alistair Campbell please tell us the 4 main benefits of using NordVPN? Referring to the fact that the presenter read has been a thing in American radio for 100 years, where the whole idea is that the presenter will read out a recommendation for a product that they've never used before, saying how much they love using it. And the way the salespeople sell it, the radio salespeople, including my grandfather, would sell it is saying, but you've got trust, that the listeners trust in the presenter that has been built up over time. In this country, we have special things that keep advertising and presenters separate. So when we hear something like that, I think in British culture, it jars a little bit. And certainly with a lot of the presenters, they go, I'm really not enjoying doing this. And Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart are particularly good at that. The interesting thing is, after the question was like, what are the top 4 benefits of NordVPN? And everybody laughed. And Anthony Scaramucci goes, well, it keeps your browser safe. It stops you being better. But he basically listed them all off and then went, and thanks to the guys to Fuse Energy who came out to see me when I was in Singapore a couple of weeks ago. And you just saw Campbell and Rory Stewart looking there like he'd pissed on their shoes. But I think the upshot of that is, again, it irritates me when I hear these reads in podcasts. But at the same time, there's maybe a bit where that's just my Englishness, and we need to do what the mooch does: suck it up and do a good job for advertisers. Or I don't know what the answer is. Does it jar with you, Steve?
No, not really. Now I've got something to sell. No, it's a great thing, to be honest. I will come up with a better. It was just off the top of their head. There was no paper there, so I will come up with a better script for next time out. And if you want to sell anything, why not? Have you got anything, knocking around? Maybe do some sort of bring and buy sale. Maybe we have a junk box and stuff. We'll have a clear out, and we just try and sell it in the style of a presenter read.
I have nothing of value in my life. Less stuff is more, as far as I'm concerned. All right, you got to go out this experiential presents. That's what we do now. We buy people theatre tickets, because anything else is just future landfill.
It is. It's very true. It's very big now. Experiential stuff. I was speaking of the theatre, of course.
Yes, that's what I was about to do. So you went to see a bit of theatre this week, didn't you, Steve?
I did, and if you get a chance to see this, it's not on for very long. But Dr. Strangelove at the Noel Cowell Theatre in the West End. So if you're easily accessible for London, and I think it's going to Dublin, I think, in the new year. But this, I've had these tickets booked for about a year or so. I love the movie. No one's ever done this before. It's Armando Iannucci who is overseeing it all, with Sean Foley and, of course, Steve Coogan taking the Peter Sellers role of the four parts of Strangelove, the President, the RAF guy, and the bomber. And
sorry, can I just go 1964? And this surprised me when I was doing a bit of reading in order to talk to you. 1964, Stanley Kubrick film, and I vaguely know it because it's one of those. It's always in the top 100 comedies or top 20 films of all time over here, isn't it? I think it's one of those that I haven't actually seen, but I know about it, and it's shot in black and white, and it's Peter Sellers playing many parts, and I vaguely remember, in my head, it's black and white images of the full title, by the way, Steve. Do you remember what it is?
Yes, it's Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Which is, it was genuinely the height of the Cold War. It was Cuban Missile Crisis time. So there are scenes in the United Nations and scenes in bomber planes, and that's about all I know. Well,
okay.
Is Steve Coogan good enough to step into Peter Sellers' shoes?
this is really strange. So, appropriately, but he was incredible. It's one of the best things I've ever seen him in. And I'm a massive Partridge fan and all the rest of it, but, you know, and everything else he's done. But actually, so I went with my brother and my cousin, and my brother and I agreed us on the way home saying that he was actually a better Strangelove than Peter Sellers. A better Strangelove. However, but the thing is, there are 4 parts, right? Peter Sellers, I think, the better president. It's just that conversation where he's talking to the Russian president, having accidentally, the US has accidentally basically sent their entire air fleet to bomb Russia by accident. And that's where the story setup is basically, is that there's a US general who's gone nuts and actually takes over the president's role of hitting the nuclear button, and they've got to try and diplomatically get themselves out of it. And Peter Sellers is brilliant as the president. Steve Coogan's brilliant as the pilot, and also the RAF guy as well, actually. So yeah, he actually found him, and I didn't think I'd ever say that because it's such a revered film. It's been out for so long. This has not been done, to my mind, on the stage. And also, I understand why Amanda Iannucci's done it, because it's very, very prevalent at the moment. It's come exactly back into vogue, exactly the right time. You found yourself, you would watch this if you...
Mutually assured destruction in a thermonuclear war has come back into vogue.
It's come back into fashion. Yes. And so that's the reason why. If you'd watched this show this week, or it's until goes into January, but if you'd watched this show and it had been you found out it had been written 3 weeks ago, you would not have been, it wouldn't have battered an eyelid. It was completely relevant and so funny, really, really good, spectacularly produced as well. The way because of course Steve Coogan's playing all 4 roles, easily done in the cinema, of course, being on two people on stage at the same time. But in theatre, I don't want to spoil it about how they do the transitions, but he does appear twice. He does appear at the same time in the same place on stage.
I'm hoping it's like one of those novelty acts from the 1950s where the ballroom dancing acts, where the left half is man and the right half is woman. Is it one of those?
Not too far off, but I will say, whenever I go to the theatre, I never buy merchandise like a programme. I bought a mug. I bought merchandise. That's how much I love the show. And this mug has got a famous quote from the movie on it, which I'll read out. "Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room." Fantastic. That is, in fact, the United Nations room you mentioned. It's the war room.
I'd like to point out as well that Steve Coogan makes a better Inspector Clouseau than Steve Martin, even though he's never done it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption there. I mean, you can't beat Peter Sellers for that one, though, can you? Really, Clouseau?
No.
Yeah. Anyway, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah, we've managed to avoid talking about Miranda Hart for 20 minutes. Do you want to do the book?
Yes, we should do the book. Well, I think back at you, dude. You've got to talk about the author, who happens to be the subject.
Yes, indeed. So, Miranda Hart Dyke was born 14th of December 1972, is an English actress, comedian and writer. And again, I'd probably say writer, comedian and actress in that order. I should think that's probably how she feels about herself. She was initially in a BBC comedy programme called Hyperdrive, which, as far as I can find out, is a Netflix show where the world's craziest stunt drivers go around a track for honour and glory.
I can tell you about Hyperdrive. That's fine.
I thought you might.
Hyperdrive was a TV series from 2006 on BBC Two, following the adventures of the crew of the HMS Camden Lock. And I think, I've got a feeling actually, I need to look this up. I think Nick Frost was in that one as well. Yes, Nick Frost was in that one, yeah.
It seems, I have looked up both Hyperdrives. I like the look of the Netflix one with the stunt cars better. But yes, Nick Frost is in it, and
Kevin Eldon.
Kevin Eldon is the other one, correct. I never saw it. Any good?
I don't know. I was a big Red Dwarf fan, so it just felt like when you've watched it for the first time, you just think, this is never going to be like Red Dwarf. So it was probably an unfair comparison to make. So I'd like to rewatch it again, I think.
It's good to walk into something with a totally negative attitude like that. This will never
completely
be.
I'm British. Absolutely.
And she was in Lee Mack's Not Going Out, which seems to be the sitcom that refuses to die. She's in that from 2006 to 2009. Her most famous and the thing with which she is most identifiable is her sitcom Miranda. It lasted for 3 series from 2009 to 2015. She got Royal Television Awards, British Comedy Awards, and a couple of nominations for British Academy of Film and Television BAFTA nominations. That was an important show in some of the people, for some people in my life who identified with her. The one thing it doesn't say on Wikipedia, where I dredged all that nonsense up, is she's actually 6'1", so she's very tall for a woman. I think as a kid certainly would have stood out. And it wasn't about her being tall and sort of clumsy, but it was about her not being quite the norm, or even the what some women are taught to aspire to. That whole, the constant images of airbrushed people with orange skin, blonde hair, and fake lips and other parts. It was the whole idea that she was very normal and honest. I think the young people are using the word authentic at the moment, Steve, and I know that people who I knew at the time and people who they liked it and related to her, as we showed in that opening clip, and it gave them a sense of power, and it still happens. It's still remembered 10 years later by people I meet today if we end up going down that particular line of conversation. I don't know how that rests with you, Steve. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. The way she's got funny bones, Miranda Hart, and she's so well, it's one of those laughs that it's not like it's not pointed, it's not sort of obvious. It just sort of creeps up on you, the humour. I found anyway with her. And I think, yeah, she's a hero to many. Very
referential to the traditional, the golden age of British sitcoms in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It even ends with the "you have been watching" style credits, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
Oh, you haven't seen it, have you?
Yeah, I've seen clips. I've seen bits and bobs. Mrs. Brown's Boys, I think, finishes like that, and
yeah, it's basically a hat tip to, But even though it comes from that tradition, for me, and I'm often pompously found saying, as a father of daughters, and particularly one daughter who is 5'8" at the age of 12, it's really good for me to be able to show her, just be yourself, and you will be adored and adulated as Miranda was.
I think we should all take heart from that, to be honest. We've been putting on this act for far too long. What people don't realise is that we're both bankers in the city.
No, we're not. We're both chiseled models. This is
the only models I've chiselled are in the conservatory.
This is
but when I say that, I mean I can't. I'm a whittler. I'm nothing funny.
Not Fred West style whittle them and put them in the walls. Not that kind of thing.
Okay, well let it out there.
So the other thing she's famous for is she appeared in Call the Midwife. You've got a midwife, haven't you, Steve?
I do, yeah. So down the road from me as well, I've been to where it's been filmed at Chatham Dockyard.
Right, okay. I haven't seen that. I was away at that point. Now, the book. What you'd expect from somebody you're given that build-up is a goofy, funny memoir of how I got a job at the BBC. Very much like Lee Max, to be honest.
Of course, I was at the BBC Club and I was offered a series.
Well, do you know what? There is a little bit in here where she does a bit of that. Of course, I didn't seek fame. Well, you work bloody hard. I mean, Steve and I are quite intelligent and quite hard-working, and we only managed to get to really low-ranking jobs in the BBC. So it can't have happened by accident. I'm not going to play another clip from it. I think possibly the clip that we played at the top of the show not only gives you an idea of the content, but gives you an idea of the tone that it's been read in. For the last 10 years, Miranda has been laid low by chronic illness, which has led her to, as she puts it, lose her job, some of her friends, even her house. And it was undiagnosed until about 2020. And what this is a it's kind of, it's a self-help book which quotes lots of other self-help books about how she survived that, and she is genuinely trying to help other people feel better about themselves and point them in the direction of therapy and positive things to read. And I'm a little too far on in that journey, so I found some of it grating, but I do know that when you're earlier on in that particular journey, you do need stuff repeated to you over and over again and for it to be laid out in a comforting way. So for me, it wasn't what I needed. I do have a feeling the pulped tree version of this book, Steve, it's an attractive object. It's got a very nice cover, and as a bloke looking to buy people things at Christmas, you go, oh, she likes Miranda, oh, and that book looks quite nice, I'll buy her that. I have a feeling that 80% of those books will sit on people's bedside tables with a bookmark about 2/3 of the way through the prologue. So I think...
Wow.
Well,
I wasn't expecting the end of that sentence.
How far did you get?
I got but this is purely time constraint for me. So I got about 3 hours in, I think, in the end.
Well, to be honest, that's further than me. Apparently, there's a happy ending. She gets married at the end, as mentioned earlier. She finally got married at the age of 51 this year, and congratulations to her. And it can still happen. You can still fall in love in later life. As I say, this book will be useful to some people, but it's a bit, for someone who's done so well in her life, as illustrated in that quote at the beginning, where people have come up to her in the street and said, your sitcom Miranda really changed my life because it made me feel. There's a bit where you have to, and I have some chops in this, and I've won awards for this, so I can talk about it. The more effective way of doing it is by doing something entertaining and then slipping them the message vegetables in there. So whether I've been doing it with the blindness stuff or the Russell Brand on addiction stuff, the whole idea is you come out at the end of it. And I thought to myself, you know what would be great and how this could really work, because she is such an engaging person, and this is perhaps this book is perhaps too earnest and the wrong format for what she's trying to do for me. And it's a podcast. She has to go to Gary Lineker, Steve, and pitch the idea of The Rest is Mental, and have her talking to people who are perhaps have been through the mill a bit themselves, and for her to identify with them. And then, because what you want to hear is you're not the only person feeling that way and everything's all right. And if Miranda Hart feels a bit like that and talks to other people who are feeling a bit like that, I think that could be a potentially useful product. This was just the wrong medium for me. Too much sincerity for too long, and that just shows what a bad human being I am.
Well, I don't know. I think it's subjective for me, and then sort of taking it more widely. And obviously, cards on the table. I haven't finished it, but I will definitely be finishing this one. And one of the reasons is that, I love my comedy, and I'm a bit of a bookworm, pardon the pun, for sort of historical comedy and the characters who are in it. And I remember BBC4 used to make a great play of doing dramas about the darker side of some of the most best loved comedians in the UK, Steptoe and Son, Frankie Howard, Kenneth Williams, all with their demons. And at the time, they never spoke about them. A lot of these people suffered in silence. Tony Hancock was another one as well. There were the character flaws, and sometimes they weren't very nice to people. And but a lot of people suffered in silence because. And when you talk about the word vegetables, slipping them their vegetables, actually, I think sometimes the reason vegetables are there is because you actually need them, and you do need to. For Miranda Hart, I'm sure, and I'm hoping it was for her, a cathartic exercise. And I think you're right. You're absolutely right. It's going to resonate with so many people who are feeling not just with the condition that she's been suffering from, but also to not give up hope and not take the GP's word as if you get fobbed off, keep trying, because you will get an answer in the end. Hopefully you will get an answer in the end, but there is always hope that they'll find it, because it must have been awful all those years not knowing what was wrong with you.
Yeah, but she didn't have to impose that whole book on us. I'll give you a little bit of compromise.
Shot down with half a line there.
A little bit of compromise, Steve. I think last week we did a thing where we discussed how the Steve Jobs book is one that you return to, your comfort book. And you can use an audiobook in the same way that you use a normal dog-eared paperback, and that is you can go back and just read the bit you want to every now and again. I think that's what may happen to those people who are at the right level and place in their mental health journey to find this book useful to them, and useful and possibly even life-changing. But at the same time, and also, you know what? It sounds like she's been on her uppers a bit. If you want to, spend 25 quid on the hardback version for One You Love at Christmas, and you will have done a good deed there. But I'll just let you know now, Steve, I appreciate your loyalty and your positivity and your honesty, but you don't have to go through the rest of it.
I appreciate you too. There we go. That's our self-help book done.
Did we get away with it?
We never get away with it. There'll be a training course application in the post, I think. That was I Haven't Been Entirely Honest With You, written and indeed narrated by Miranda Hart. Comes in at 10 hours and 9 minutes. Was released on the 10th of October by Penguin Audio. Next week, we're changing gear once again, but sticking with the autobiography phase of things, aren't we, Matt?
Yeah, we are. Are you going to do this? I'm quite excited now I've looked at it.
Yeah, I mean, what a career. Who are we talking about? Give us a call. Let us know.
No. Well, or go and look at the latest new release books and see which is the best, most exciting looking biography you can find. And you'll find it's Al Pacino, Sonny Boy, a memoir. I'm looking very forward to that.
Yep, definitely. Alan Pacino. Let's see what he did during the course of his life. I understand he was in films. He might have done some, I don't know, sitcoms or something. But by all accounts, a jolly good egg. And from America, apparently, with some sort of Italian in there.
I get the impression of you. So I'm very much looking forward to saying hello to you, Steve, my little friend, next week.
I will. He'll be joining us on the podcast. His book will anyway next week. But in the meantime, that's about all we have time for on Audio Book Club. So just before we hand over two pages from CFAX, just befalls for Matthew Layton to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And for me to wish you a very quiet and peaceful night / day / whenever you're listening to this. Don't forget, we are available at Audio Book Show, which, by the way, Matt, good news. We're now to 700 followers thanks to the bots. So, so it looks good in terms of the figures, but in the spirit of honesty, none of them are real. But if you want to join the conversation, we're regularly posting there with new episodes and what's coming up. So please add your thoughts in there, as well as what you're listening to at the moment that you think we should be too. Until the next time, we'll say goodbye.